Hi everybody, like Vinny said, I'm Timo Joss, I'm the Partner Program Manager. I'm here to talk to you about goals today. And pretty much I would say one of the most important things for you to think about really is the concept of goals. I've got a couple questions before, and how many of you use Google Analytics? And of those, you use this daily? Okay. Of those of you who are using Google Analytics, which ones of you have actually implemented goals before? Okay. This is actually in line with what we've seen. So this is really the main reason for this is that we see a lot of our advertisers who are using Google Analytics are actually not using goals. And if you really think about it, if you do not have a goal set up on your site, on whatever analytics package that you're using, sorry, it's as if you're watching sports without a goal. It's pretty boring. So another way to really think about this is that if you don't actually have a way to understand what success is, you can't really measure success. So we're going to stick with this theme of football, and I hope you like football. And to put a little bit of this into context is we have a Google store. I don't know if any of you have ever bought anything on the Google store, but you can buy all sorts of wonderful little Google happy t-shirts. And we actually tag this up, obviously. And if you were to look at the visits by country, you'd see here that in third position, Brazil is driving a lot of traffic. So you'd make the deduction that actually Brazil is probably one of the better customers for the Google store. However, if you actually go in and look at the actual conversion rate, what you'll see is that they're not even in the top 10. So if you had not had a goal implemented, which would allow you to actually check for the purchase, you'd have a really bad understanding of how your site's working and operating. Now, with this having a goal set up, you're then able to actually develop strategies that will enable you to try to understand why is the Brazilian traffic not converting as much. So you can then actually start thinking around potentially creating Portuguese content and the likes. So a few of you actually have goals set up. And I would say that the majority of mature customers we are now working with actually do have goals set up. However, just having one purchase goal is really not ideal. Because if you really think about it, the reason for your site's existence is probably not just because of one goal. It's not just about the purchase. There's a lot of other things happening. And like we've heard before, a lot of clients that come to your sites don't necessarily convert immediately. There's a lot of other things happening. So one way to think about this is really before this actual goal completion, the final purchase, what else can you actually measure? There is an actual, that's it, okay, apologies. So there's a study that was done recently where you can really think around the consumer journey, and it's a cycle. The thinking behind this really is that it's not just about the final goal purchase or the conversion of the final goal, but it's really the entire cycle and journey of a consumer going through your site. So the initial trigger response when a client or a user decides to engage with your site, then starts looking into shopping around, comparing, analyzing, and then finally does the actual goal completion. And then afterwards, it's retention. How do you keep that client engaged? How do you keep that client coming back? How do you keep upselling and making sure that the client's actually happy? So a way to think about this is in these 4 steps. And the majority of people or the majority of account managers I've worked with in the past will really think around this one specific moment. However, we really try to urge you to think around all 4, the entire span of this user journey. So the initial kind of instance where you're trying to capture your clients, how can you define goals around that? Active evaluation. What pages on your sites are offered for your customers where they can actually actively evaluate, compare, check, finally actually purchase? And what happens afterwards? What kind of goals do you have set up? Well, how are you tracking your engagement with your customers afterwards? One of the reasons, one of the more practical reasons I would say this is highly important to think in these terms is if you are running a new campaign and somebody asks you, how are you performing, and it's only been a week or two, it's highly unlikely that number 3, the moment of purchase, is very strong. However, it's highly likely that the first 2, the evaluation and the initial stages, you actually at least have some data that you can share with your manager. Let's look at a local example. So for example, everybody likes movies, pretty straightforward. Check out which city you want to watch it in, check out what type of movie you want to watch, and time and seats. Pretty straightforward funnel, pretty straightforward purchase cycle. However, even in something as straightforward as buying a movie ticket, there's a lot going on. So you can sign up, you can sign in, you can become a member, you can follow the RSS feed. There's even a mobile app. On the homepage, we've heard John talk about social. There's even a way to engage socially with that site. So think of where all of this would have fit into the entire campaign approach for this particular advertiser or customer. So how do you go about doing this? How do you set up goals? What are some tricks of the trade? Really simply put, look for our help center. That's probably the easiest way to start if you have no idea, if you've never implemented it. It's actually not that hard. And we also have later on sessions with our partners who will cover in a little bit more detail what it means to implement a goal, what to think about, and how to go about actually doing this. I realize that some of you didn't raise your hand, and some of you are not using Google Analytics, but I'd hope that some of you are, or those of you who are using Adwords, still this applies to you as well. So you can use, as you see here, Adwords conversion tracking. It's a very simple tag that you can put on the final completion page of whatever goal it is that you're tracking, and you can then at least see how your advertising campaigns are performing. Finally, going back to the analogy of soccer or football, however you want to call it, it's not always about the striker, right? So measuring goals, absolutely important. However, the striker, yes, might be a star, but as we heard John talk about multi-channel funnels, there's the assisting players. So you need to understand, upon the entire goal completion cycle, who is assisting the striker to actually drive that final purchase. I've got some homework for you. So in your packages, you should have a sheet that looks like this, and we encourage you to fill this out throughout the event. And if you have any questions, or even if you are attending a later one of the workshops, this is a perfect time to then approach us, talk to us, and ask us any questions that you might have. Thank you.